Now, the National Treasury recently released a discussion paper calling for a 20% national tax on the gross gambling revenue of all licensed and unlicensed online gambling activities. The Treasury reckoned the tax could add up to 10 billion rand on the fiscus. However, opposition to the National Treasury's proposed 20% national tax on online gambling is growing sharply. Industry bodies, legal experts warned that the plan is unconstitutional. It's economically destructive as well. For more on this, we are now joined by a leading expert in gambling law and the founder of Weitzman's Attorneys, Garen Weitzman. Garen, thanks for joining us. Good to have you on the program for this issue. Garen, are you still there? We had Garen all along. We had him there. He was talking to us very easily. It looks like there's something wrong with the connection at the moment. I'll keep an eye on the side just to make sure that we can, in fact, get that connection up and running. But I mean, there are big issues around this particular topic, and it's one where, online gambling and illegal gambling is something that we've got to be very, very concerned about. And I mean, when we look at some of the issues around it, it's I suppose Treasury framing this as an easy 10 billion rand boost to the fiscus. That's what they are hoping to find. And I imagine from a legal and regulatory standpoint, there may be a number of issues. And that's what we're hoping that Garen will talk to us about, because online gambling, whichever way you look at it, and it's not only in like the online gambling sense that but I mean, I often think about what our kids do and the gaming that our kids do on some of these programs like Roblox or whatever. That's also considered to be some form of gambling. But anyway, I think we've got Garen back. Garen, can we? Yes, it looks like we got you. You're moving. That's a good sign. So, Garen, talk to us about your reaction when you heard about this proposed 20% national tax on online gambling.
Look, I was shocked, but not shocked at the same time. National government has for some time been, I suppose playing a game would be the right term, as far as trying to get control of online gambling in the country. And when I say get control, I mean take away regulation from the provinces. This has been going on for quite some time, and in fact it had a run-in with the National Council of Provinces, given the substantial role that the provinces play in the regulation of gambling in terms of our constitution. In fact, provinces regulate gambling on a day-to-day basis, and they are the primary taxers of gambling of the gambling regulatory activity. So I saw it sort of as a continuation of what's been going on the last few weeks, where the National Gambling Board has been quite vociferous in its view of what should be done in relation to online gambling. By the same token, I was surprised because I didn't expect them to actually go this route, and B, the taxes that are being proposed are actually extortionate. They're completely out of kilter with anything that is reasonable or sensible in the circumstances.
Yeah. So obviously at the heart of this, I mean, Treasury has framed this as an easy 10 billion rand boost to the fiscus. That's what they, I suppose, are hoping for. But if we look at the regulatory standpoint, is this number even realistic?
Yeah, I think the number's realistic. I jotted down a few points before we went on air, that emerged from the National Gambling Board's recent annual report, which gives us a good overview of what's going on in the industry. And of the 74.5 billion rand in gross gambling revenue that was generated across all gambling modalities in this country, 52 billion was through the betting industry, and a lot of that is in relation these days to online games and betting on the outcome of casino games, which have become incredibly popular.
Yeah.
So I certainly think that, an aspiration to raise additional taxes as a result of it, on the face of it appears like there's some sort of golden goose to tax. And, that saw quite a substantial year-on-year growth, as we've seen for many, many years in this country, particularly post-COVID. However, there's a bigger problem here. The first thing is, and I probably best read this, because the Treasury says in its proposal that the main objective of the reform would not be to raise further revenue, but rather to discourage problem and pathological gambling and their ill effect. That's the first thing. So Treasury has come and said, well, it's not to raise revenue. We've got a particular purpose in mind, which I think any experts in this industry and industry participants will tell you that's just simply not going to be the case.
Yeah.
The second thing is, raising an additional 20% tax on top of what is already being paid by operators in the industry really will kill the golden goose. I think what people need to remember is that that's on top of roughly 6.5% of GGR that is already paid to the provinces, deemed VAT at the prevailing VAT rate on bets, compliance costs, annual licensing costs, corporate tax, withholding taxes on dividends, CGT on share transactions, PAYE for the thousands of people that are employed, and it goes on and on and on. In fact, what we've seen, and I think Ulrich Benson, the CEO of Sun International, said this recently when Sun International came out and really slammed the proposed tax, is that what we've seen is that, in fact, it decreases the opportunity for government to raise revenue. So I think, the Treasury is saying, well, we're doing this not to raise revenue, but by the same token, I can't see it as any way other than to raise revenue.
Yeah.
What a lot of people also don't understand is the margins are not that high in relation to for operators. And in fact, what's going to happen, and we've seen it time and time again around the world where there's been a crazy sort of raise in the taxes, is that it puts people out of business and in fact kills the golden goose. It doesn't actually increase what's available. It reduces revenue in a very meaningful way. If government is looking to... Sorry,
no,
Karen.
not a problem. I just want to ask you, I suppose maybe you were about to answer this, but I just want to ask you in terms of, we're mentioning provinces, different provinces, and if provinces actually challenge this, do you foresee an intergovernmental legal battle similar to previous disputes between Treasury and provincial gambling boards?
Most certainly, and it's exactly the same as when I say it's a continuation of what's been going on with the National Gambling Board, where it recently used the Superbets matter in the SCA judgment to say, well, this has confirmed certain points, which in fact it didn't at all, as far as its ability to regulate online gambling in this country, and in fact was more favorable to the provinces and the industry, is that the industry, and when I say that, I mean the entire industry, meaning operators, manufacturers, suppliers, and the provincial gambling boards are pitted against national government. This is simply another rendition of what we've been seeing in relation to remote or online gambling for a number of years already.
So I wonder, and I suppose a lot of people are speaking to this as well, asking this question, if there is this tax that's brought in, could this actually cripple the legal industry and then fuel the illegal industry even more? Could this?
Without a doubt.
So that's a concern.
Without any question about it, and again, the empirical evidence around the world shows that in countries that are over-regulated, and that includes in relation to taxes, and that do not have balanced regimes, which take into account all the interests, including government, including the industry participants, and very much players, that the black market industry, the illegal industry, continues to grow. And it's a meaningful problem, and it's a meaningful problem particularly for parties, say, in South Africa and other highly regulated markets, who are highly regulated, who run incredibly serious businesses, substantial businesses that are highly regulated with substantial compliance requirements that do have player protection measures in place. And the money, we've heard Sean Summers talk about it recently, we've heard others talk about it recently, about monies going to the illegal market. Yes, it does. This will increase, no doubt, the illegal markets activity in South Africa. It will push marginal licensed parties out of business. It will have a material effect on non-marginal licensed operators in the business. It will also have an effect on suppliers in the business. It will have a wider effect, including on broadcasting houses, on publishers. The fallout will be absolutely massive. There will be layoffs of thousands of people who are employed in the gambling industry in this country, and have a more material knock-on effect to than what Treasury are stating is their stated objective for seeking to impose an additional tax. It will place us in a position where we have one of the highest gambling tax rates in the world. And I think what one also needs to understand is this is not tax that is being proposed from stake. It is from GGR. And the way that it works is GGR, or gross gambling revenue, is the total wages placed by players. There's total payouts to players.
Yeah.
On that, gambling taxes are assessed, and VAT is effectively assessed as well.
Gosh.
It's only after that you start talking about the top line for any operators. So you're talking about an additional tax at that juncture, not on total stakes, and it affects margin tremendously. I mean, it will have a devastating effect on the industry here, and an unnecessarily devastating effect on the industry here that actually makes an incredibly substantial contribution to the South African economy.
Okay, Garen, there's so much more I wanted to ask you, but if you could give me a yes or no, because I've got to say goodbye to our viewers. But the one thing that's been plaguing me and wondering, I mean, obviously this proposal includes taxing unlicensed online gambling, but can we actually tax an entity outside of South Africa's jurisdiction? Are we able to?
I'm not a tax expert.
Okay.
My understanding is, in principle, yes, you can.
Okay.
But enforcement is nigh impossible. We've seen
one.
it with the KSA, which is the Dutch gambling authority. They've imposed various fines and that on the illegal market. I mean, they will never be collected. I think it's more symbolic than anything else.
All right.
And I think it will be wholly ineffective.
We'll talk more about this, Garen. It's going to be a very big one going forward, and we'll watch this closely and invite you, if you don't mind, for more on it. Garen Weitzman.
I think so, yes, and I'd love to be back, and thank you for asking me.
Thank you, Garen, founder of Weitzman's Attorneys and a leading expert in gambling law. Speaking about Treasury's proposed 20% tax on online gambling, hoping to raise about 10 billion extra into the fiscus from this, but whether it happens and can happen, that remains questionable.